Okay. Good morning or good afternoon, evening, whoever's listening at whatever time of the day. My name is Emma Lewin. I'm the volunteer coordinator at Humber and Vale Cancer Alliance, and I am the Humber and Vale Cancer Alliance is part of the NHS, and we have been delivering these cancer champion training sessions for just over 3 years now. I had to think then how long it had been. Worked for the NHS for around about 9 years. Prior to that, I worked in private industry. So that, interestingly, means that I'm not clinical in any way, shape or form. We have been delivering cancer champion training, say, for just over 3 years, so I do know quite a lot about cancer, and a lot of the questions that you may ask, I can pretty much answer as we go through, hopefully. But if you do have any questions that I don't know the answers to, then we do have access to clinicians who we can go to get information from. So please feel free to jot yourself a note, and as this is being recorded, then please ask us at the end. Alternately, if you are watching at a later stage and you would like to email us directly, our email for the Cancer Alliance is eryccg.cancerchampion@nhs.net. It will be shown at the end of the presentation as well. So just a quick thank you to Menopaus'ull support network, and also Neighbourhood Network for hosting today's female focus cancer champion workshop. We've done a couple of other sessions which are available for anybody, and in fact just because this is a female focus workshop, it doesn't mean that males can't be watching and enjoying and learning about cancer as well. The aims of being a cancer champion, we want to help people recognise some of the early signs and symptoms and help them present at their GP with those symptoms earlier. Encourage people to take up cancer screening. We have 3 screening programmes here in England, and most people have heard of 2 of them, but it tends to be the third that most haven't heard about. But we will go on to talk about the screening programmes in a few slides' time. We also want to help people feel confident to engage in conversations about cancer. Cancer is still a topic that people don't like to talk about. I remember the first time that my parents sat me down and said that one of their friends had, Auntie Pauline's got cancer. And it was said in those words and in that manner, she got cancer, because we didn't like to say that word out loud. It was just a few years ago when I was a teenager, but even now, even at that time as well, people talked about the C word. Tends to mean other things nowadays. However, it doesn't change the fact that people don't like to talk about cancer. The Cancer Champion programme is all about real people, talking to real people, and it really does make a difference. We've got some little anecdotes and stories as we go through, and hopefully you will enjoy this session and learn lots as we're going through today. So Humber and Vale Cancer Alliance, we cover a large area. We cover all the way down the east coast from Whitby down to Spurn Point, across into North East Lincolnshire with Cleethorpes and Grimsby, round into North Lincolnshire, round to Goole, right round to York, round to Harrogate, round the top of the Dales to Northallerton and back to Whitby. We cover very large rural areas in that, and also some very large urban areas as well. But the Cancer Alliance brings together all of the organisations that commission and provide cancer care services in our area, and we want to ensure that people have an improved early diagnosis, survival, quality of life, and really important as well, patient experience. Anybody who is going through any type of cancer treatment wants to have the best experience that they potentially can do. So the vision of the Cancer Alliance is to achieve world-class cancer outcomes for our communities. So we have some numbers for you. These come from Yorkshire Cancer Research's report from 2021, and within our area, which is around about 1,700 square miles and has a population of about 1.9 million, we have around about 218 people who are diagnosed with cancer each week. Quite a big number when you look at the number of 218 on its own. However, when you think about that big population, it's maybe not quite as bad as you'd seem to think initially. And each week there are approximately 95 people who will lose their life to cancer. Compared to the number who are diagnosed, It's not as horrendous maybe as you think, but the one that we want to celebrate and really be aware of and make comment about is that there are currently over 71,000 people who are living with and beyond their cancer diagnosis. That number for last year, for 2020, was at 55,000. So you can see already that the number is increasing quite dramatically. So becoming a cancer champion, we want to try and help people, provide that support to people where appropriate, be enthusiastic about supporting healthy behaviour, which we'll go on to in a moment, and provide information and signpost people to where is appropriate. That might be to be able to pass them on to one of the specific cancer charity websites. So, for example, Breast Cancer Now, or Breast Cancer, so Know Your Lemons. It could be Bowel Cancer UK. It could be prostate cancer, or it could be one of the generic cancers, generic charities. So, Cancer Research UK and Macmillan talk about a lot of different cancers and not just one particular one. So what we're not going to do, because I'm not clinical in any way, shape or form, and I don't claim to be, I'm not going to give you specialist knowledge, and you're not going to go away at the end of the session and say, oh, I'm now a trained clinician on cancer, I can talk about it all the time. We're not. Just got some information for you that will hopefully give you that initial understanding. I'm not going to teach you to be a counsellor or even just explain to people what to do or to set goals for them. We are adults. We are over the age of 18, and we make our own decisions. Whether they be the right ones or the wrong ones in our life, we do make our own decisions. But cancer champions are important because people often feel frightened. They don't always put their own needs first. Some people might even feel guilty if it's their fault. For example, maybe if they're a smoker and they think, oh, well, my doctor always said that I should give up smoking. People think that they also might be wasting the NHS's time. It's always an interesting conversation. And the next bit on this slide is about Mark Lawrenson. For those of you who don't know, Mark Lawrenson is a football pundit on the BBC, ex-football player with Liverpool and Northern Ireland. And there was a doctor watching television at home one morning, and he noticed that there was something on the side of Mark's face, which is circled on the picture there. So he wrote into the BBC and said, I'm a little bit worried about something that I've seen on Mark's face. Please, can you ask Mark to, please can you pass this to Mark and ask him to go and see his doctor? Mark received the email, so all credit to the BBC for passing it on. And he went off to his doctor because he said, well, actually, and he admitted this later, I had noticed that there was something there. But being a typical man, I thought, it'll go away. It's nothing. So he did go to his doctors. The doctor said, I agree, and I think I'll refer you on. So he was referred to a dermatologist who said that there was a potential that it may be cancerous cells there. So they ended up doing a couple of operations to get rid of the cancer cells on his face at that time. So the BBC then did some follow-ups with Mark and the doctor, and that's the photograph that is shown on the bottom right-hand side there. So we can all make a difference, and as we'll go through, I've got some little stories that will show you how I've even made a difference. So what are your first thoughts when somebody mentions the word cancer? Now, normally I'd ask you to take your mics off and give us some answers, but as this is being recorded, I'll give you my set of answers that we've been given along the way. It can mean, what's going to happen to me? What kind of treatment will I have to go through? As a female, one of the things that I would worry about is, what's going to happen to my hair? How am I going to tell my kids? What's going to happen to my work? Especially for people that are maybe on a 0 hours contract or part-time, or don't have a full-time permanent contract, which offers them rates of sick pay or anything. What's going to happen to me? How am I going to pay the bills? Could be a whole host of other things that go with that. But then the other thing might be, probably one that people don't like to mention, but it is always there at the back of people's minds. Are they going to die? what's the outcome for them? As we've seen on those previous slides, the number of people who are living with and beyond cancer has increased rapidly over the last few years. So 71,000 people, and that's just the ones who are currently under a consultant. For those who are not, then they're not actually part of that because they're now not included within the cancer numbers. So what is cancer? So a lot of people, we talk about it, but people don't know what it is or how it happened. Cancer has been around or has been talked about for many hundreds of years. It was talked about by Archimedes, one of the original Greek doctors, and he talked about carcinomas, which is another word for cancer. There's also said to be notes of it on the pyramids in the hieroglyphics. But cancer is an illness which results in our body's cells growing out of control. So we have on our bodies, whatever we wish to say, we have skin cells and we also have blood cells, and your brain will send a message to whichever cell it is and say, come on, right, it's your turn to reproduce. So at that point, it will go through its reproduction phase, and at some point, either the old cell doesn't die off properly or the new cell doesn't quite form properly, or a bit of an amalgamation of all of it. And that is where potentially there will a lump of tissue will form, which is going to be called a tumour. And where that starts, it's said to be called a primary. With regards to research into that, there's still lots and lots of things going on so that they can try and find out why those messages and why those cells just decide to go a little bit crazy, really. So that is all going on in the background. Cancer can spread to other parts of the body, and it often uses things like the lymphatic system, which takes waste around your body to move to different parts. And if it goes to a different part of the body, it's often referred to as a secondary, and that can sometimes be a little bit more difficult to treat. And if cancer can spread occasionally to lots of different parts of the body, when it's said to have metastasized or mets. There come some of the more clinical terms that we will hear today. I promise you we're not going to say anything that's going to baffle you with science along the way. So some more facts for you. So more than 1 in 2 people will develop cancer in their lifetime. Did you notice that specific word there, develop? Didn't say die from. And if you look at those numbers that we've talked about previously, then the number that have been diagnosed is a lot more than is those that are dying from it as well. Cancer survival in the UK has doubled in the last 40 years. Lots of different reasons why that is, but that can include improvements in medication, chemotherapy, radiotherapy. It can also include things like early diagnosis. So this Cancer Champion programme is part of the Awareness and Early Diagnosis programme. And just by talking about screening, for example, that is classed as early diagnosis because people are finding things before they would normally have found them themselves. Also, another improvement has been things like X-rays, CT scans, MRI scans. Yeah, it's all right, X-rays were maybe around in the last 40 years, but were they maybe as quite high resolution as they are nowadays? I think probably 40 years ago, they'd be able to go, yes, there's something going on there. Whereas now they'd be able to drill down and keep going and going and going until they could see exactly what was happening and exactly where in that particular part of the body something has occurred. And also as well in there, we've got improvements in surgery. So just by things like keyhole surgery, that wasn't around 40 years ago. That can make things a lot better and a lot easier to be dealt with and sorted out. But it is believed that around about 10,000 lives a year or 10,000 people a year could be saved by prevention and early presentation. So this is why things like this and being able to talk about cancer is really, really important. Ooh, I happened to click on the wrong bit of the screen there and it's made everybody disappear. Never mind. Healthy lifestyle. It's estimated that 4 in 10 cancers could be prevented by adopting a healthier lifestyle. We all know what healthy lifestyle is. We've been talked about it or told what it is for years and years. It includes not smoking, changing to an e-cig, whichever is best for yourself, keeping a healthy weight, keeping a healthy diet, staying safe in the sun. You know, it's always a question that people ask, you know, how many people go on holiday and take their suntan lotion? Yeah, most of us, certainly if we're going abroad, but do we actually put that suntan lotion on in this country? The odd ones. Some of us, if it's a really hot day, do we do it as normal, as standard? Probably not, no. Drinking in moderation, keeping healthy exercise, and keeping vaccinated against anything that can be prevented. So 4 in 10 cancers can be prevented. It's a big number, that, and it certainly makes interesting thoughts, if nothing else. So here again, with the standard one, we'd be saying, right, come off your mics, tell us what do you think are the 4 most common cancers in the UK. So I'll give you just a moment to have a little think about it. Plus I can have a quick drink as well. So well done if you got any of the top 4, although in saying that, my screen is wrong because I don't normally do this one. It's not one of the top 4, but ovarian would normally be replaced there by prostate. So a male cancer is one of the top 4 there. So breast cancer, lung cancer, prostate and bowel are the top 4, and they actually make up over 50% of the cancers that are diagnosed in the UK. So today's session, we'll be replacing prostate with ovarian. Talking about the screening programs for breast cancer and bowel cancer, and then also cervical cancer, the screening program, and the human papilloma virus. So these are things that, knowing what's normal for you, these are what I would refer to often as the parrot words. So if something is persistent, unexplained or unusual for you, those are the times that we would suggest getting something checked with the doctor. Because at the end of the day, it's your body. If it's your body, you're the person that is most likely to notice that something has changed, that something is unexplained, that it's carrying on for a while, it's unusual for you. Whichever connotation, whichever way you wish to put those words, it's your body. You're going to notice if something changes, whether that's those symptoms are lasting 3 weeks or more, a cough, an ulcer, a sore that doesn't heal, pain or bloating. If it's unexplained, that change in size, shape or colour, it says there mole, but it could be on your nipple, it could be your breast, it could be even a bruise that appears that doesn't actually go when you know that you've not walked into a door or anything daft like that. If it's unusual for you, a sudden problem with swallowing, going to the toilet more often or more suddenly, unintentional weight loss or weight gain, please get it checked with the doctor. Okay, right, I hope nobody's having their 11s early. We are going to be talking about bowels and bowel cancer. Okay, so bowel cancer can affect both men and women. It is referred to as colorectal or colon cancer and can affect anywhere between your large bowel and your rectum. But really importantly, it is treatable and curable, especially if it is diagnosed early. My random fact for you. Your small bowel, if you were to pull it all out in a big long line, would be around about 23 feet in length. And the large bowel is around about 6 feet in length. The words small and large actually refer to the diameter of those rather than the length. Make sure people know that because an ex-colleague of mine won their local pub quiz with that fun fact, or useless information as she referred to it as. So signs and symptoms of bowel cancer can include a persistent change in bowel habits to looser or more frequent bowel motions. We all do it. We all go to the toilet, however often that may be, whether it is, regular as clockwork in the morning after you've had your breakfast, regular as clockwork every 2 to 3 days, or regular as clockwork to you might be every 6 or 7 days. Got a friend who says that. And we're not saying that we know roughly what our toilet habits look like in the nicest possible way. We're not going to say we stick our heads down the toilet and have a good nosy every time we've been, but we roughly know how often we go, what colour it might be, what kind of consistency it might be. Sorry to be quite graphic, but I'm sure we all do. So that change, if you notice it and it's happening for that 3 weeks or more, then it's something that does need to be checked. Sometimes, things do upset our stomach and that will change our bowel habits. So it might be a change in medication. It might be that you've had something that didn't quite agree with you, whether it's some food or indeed a few extra drinks one evening. They can cause problems like that. So, if it is a one-off and you know that it's that one-off, then that's fine. But if it is happening for longer, then please get it checked. A strange smell from your bowel movement. Now, this one actually has its own name. It's that good. It's called melena. And apparently, if you've ever smelt it, it's a very strange smell that kind of sticks. It's a very sulfuric type smell that sticks at the back of your nose and throat. And it's not just like your normal going to the toilet smell. Tummy pain and lumps in your tummy. Oh, we think about lumps and bumps as being not quite right. So again, these need to keep an eye on. And bleeding from your bottom without any obvious reason. This is really important, this one. Blood in your body, blood coming out of your body, which is not normal to you, or coming out of a normal place, then it does need to be checked out. So if you have blood, it may be that, if it's a one-off, that you've maybe it's strained when you're going to the toilet, because these things do happen. But if it is bright red, then it's usually coming from the back passage, where it's kind of like just inside the rectum, where it is, you can get things like piles, which does happen. But if it's darker in colour, then that is the one that most definitely needs to be talked about with a doctor, because that is not normal. So recently, one of the Bowel Cancer awareness months launched something called No Buts, and that was launched on Lorraine on ITV in association with Bowel Cancer UK, and they talked about the early symptoms of bowel. So not feeling peachy downstairs, no buts. It's a great little pun on everything, isn't it? But something like that might actually somebody might see that and think, actually, that's me. So if you see anything on Facebook or other social media sites are available, share it with people. It's a great way to be able to share that little bit of knowledge and just share that information, because you could make a difference to somebody's life by just sharing something like that. So awareness campaigns happen throughout the year. There are a variety of different days, weeks, months, and please do keep in touch with the Cancer Alliance and we can share that information with you as to what is upcoming. Also, with regards to bowels, there is the beautiful Bristol stool chart. It's a diagnostic tool which is used by clinicians to classify forms of human faeces into 7 categories. I hate this bit. It's not something I like to talk about, but you know what? For people that don't want to talk about poo, it's a great way to know what they can say without actually talking about it. As part of my role, I do talk about poo on a daily basis, usually, so I'm quite happy to have that conversation. But other people don't want to talk about it, especially I'm going to see the doctor. Oh God, I need to talk to him about going to the toilet. That's so embarrassing. Tell them about something like this. Well, you can go to the doctor or the nurse or whoever it is and say, well, normally I'm a type 3 or 4, but for the last 3 weeks it's been a type 6 or 7. They'll know exactly what you're talking about. It's a great way to be able to have that conversation without going into detail. I've also seen this Bristol stool chart on nurses' retirement cakes, usually done with varying sizes of and different chocolate. There we go. So another one of the awareness campaigns there. So Be Clear on Cancer is one of the government-backed campaigns. So it says, if you had blood in your poo or loose poo for 3 weeks, your doctor wants to know. Tells you what it is, what to do about it, and how long it should have been happening before you do something about it. It tells you exactly what to do. So as mentioned, we are lucky enough to have 3 screening programs, and bowel cancer screening is probably the one that you will have heard least about. We all know about breast cancer screening and also cervical cancer screening, but bowel cancer screening is probably the one that is least talked about. And it's still quite interesting when I deliver sessions and people are actually shocked because they didn't know anything about it. So what we have in the UK is a screening programme, and Cancer Research UK have done a little video for us, or that helps us. So I'm just going to press play on this one, and I shall come back to you when it's finished.
There was no sound on that, Emma, but we can share that at the end.
That was a bit rubbish. I thought when we played it earlier, when we did my test, that it worked.
No, I don't think it. I don't think it did.
Did the others on the call actually hear it? Okay, or was it not playing for yourselves either?
There was no sound. Well, you know, you don't need it. The subtitles are there. It's okay. Right.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you for that. Yeah, I'll make sure I send you the link, Sarah, and you can put that with the video. Don't fail on that one. So that's the bowel cancer screening, and it used to be a beautiful orange little kit that was sent out to people, and you had to do three separate tests and little scrapes of your poo to be able to send off the sample. The problem with this one is it could tell that there was blood in the sample, but it couldn't tell the difference between animal and human blood. So the clever boffins were able to identify this new test, and it's called a fecal immunochemical test. And this is the one that is available and is sent out to everybody now. Basically, as the information on my screen will show you, let's see if I can change the screen, that might be good. Only one stool sample is now required, and the good news is they can tell the difference between animal and human blood. So if you have a haggis or a bit of a rare steak, then you won't now be called back for further investigation because they found blood in the sample. But the screening is aiming to detect that bowel cancer at an early stage when treatment is a lot more likely to be effective. And if they do find any blood in the sample, then you would be invited for further investigation. So who's invited? Really importantly, men and women between the ages of 60 and 74 are invited for the bowel screening. You receive a letter in the post, and then 2 weeks later you receive the little kit in the little box bits, and they are sent automatically through the post. First question we ask, or people ask, is why only 60 to 74-year-olds? Well, with any of the screening programs, the reason that they have those particular the particular ages for that one is that is the most common age range that the cancer has been found in. So because they've noticed in the numbers that there are more people now getting it between the ages of 50 and 60, from April 2021, so April of this year, then they are inviting people over the age of 50 to have the bowel screening. It is going to be phased in over the next few years, so it's not just going to suddenly hit you at the age of 50 or anywhere in between that you will have one of these to do as well. It is going to be done phased in. But over 75s can also request the kit, and most importantly, if somebody says that they haven't had one, my question would be, has your doctor got your up-to-date address? The information for these kits comes through your doctor's surgery. So if you haven't received one and you are in the age cohort, certainly between 60 and 74, and I say you because you could be talking on somebody else and going, did you know about this bowel screening? I've never heard about that. I was on a call today and they were talking about it. Have you ever had one? Great opener to a question. They might think that you're talking about random things, but never mind. If you're me, then you certainly talk about things like that. So the NHS are given a target, because we've got targets for most things, and they want us to have 80% of all people to complete the bowel screening test. Nationally, the average is around about 66.8%, and in our local NHS region, it is currently 69.5%. Still not loads of people are doing it. We're getting there. I just updated the figures the other day, and it has improved, but it's not great. So who's the ones that just get them and just chuck them in the bin? Have that conversation. We've also had stories where people have been on our training or, told us stories about themselves or about other people that, they received the kit, didn't think it applied to them, chucked it in the bin. 6 months later, 6 to 12 months later, they were diagnosed with bowel cancer. Could doing that kit early have found it earlier and given them a better chance of an outcome? Who knows? We don't know that. So that was a little bit about bowel cancer and bowel cancer screening. So if you've got any questions about that, please just make a note of them, and we will answer any questions at the end as this is being recorded. Okay, so our next one we can talk about is lung cancer. Smoking is the main cause of lung cancer, with 85% of all cases being either attributed to either smokers or ex-smokers. However, people who've never smoked can still develop lung cancer. I know a story of my mum's friend who was a nurse actually at Hull Royal Infirmary for many years. She never smoked a cigarette in her life, wasn't really around, a lot of ex-smokers or anything like smokers in her family and social life. However, she was still diagnosed with lung cancer. She went through treatment and, luckily she is okay now. However, not everybody is. There is a celebrity who was diagnosed with lung cancer and again was a non-smoker. And again, at this point, I would normally say, right, do you know who it is? But I will give you the answer. It is Roy Castle. So for those of you who are of a certain age, you will remember that Mr. Castle used to present and be on Record Breakers. If you don't know who I'm talking about, then I suggest you give him a little Google. But Roy Castle, previous to being on the television on Record Breakers and other things, was a jazz trumpet player. That meant he was in the pubs and the clubs on the Northern Circuit, and he, obviously, to play his trumpet, he used to do a lot of deep breathing. Is that where he got his lung cancer? We don't know for certain, but it's a possibility. Most commonly diagnosed age range for people with lung cancer is between about 70 and 74. Bit of a strange, it's a really short time frame for that diagnosis. Why is that? We don't know for certain, but we've got a potential list of ideas as to why that may be. It could be that, during their working life, they've been in worked in places where smoking was carried on during the day, during the working time. Because before the smoking ban came in, you could work in you could smoke in lots of different places, whether it was, on public transport, even on a plane you could smoke, in a lot of workplaces you could smoke, as well as obviously pubs and bars and restaurants. I know that one lady who came to one of my sessions, she said that the first thing she used to do in the morning was she'd get a piece of paper, fashion it into an ashtray and light up. So I went, have you always worked in printing then? And she said, oh, yes. So I said, all right, okay, so you were doing that when you had lots of paper around you as well? Oh, yes. And chemicals as well? Oh, yes. It's quite scary, really. And sometimes we think that, health and safety has gone a little bit crazy. Maybe sometimes it just needed to. It's quite an interesting thought, that one, isn't it? Next question, our little diagram in the top right-hand corner there shows the lungs, and it shows that the left lung is smaller than the right lung. The reason for that, and I'd normally ask you why, is that's where your heart is. We don't think about these things, but it doesn't actually affect your breathing or your lungs there, but that is where your heart is. So some of the signs and symptoms of lung cancer can include having a cough for longer than 3 weeks for no obvious reason. In the last few months, obviously in the last 18, 20 months, that can also be referred to as COVID. We know that the numbers of people who are being referred on from the doctors for potential lung cancer has declined in the last 18 to 20 months as well. People go, oh, actually, this cough, I had COVID. That's why I've got this cough. Not necessarily. So if you know somebody who's like that, has got that cough for longer than 3 weeks for no obvious reason, and they keep saying it's long COVID, have they actually been to the doctors to have that diagnosed? Have they had a conversation with a doctor or another clinician? Please recommend that they do that and make sure that, it could be a hidden lung cancer. It's really important that people go and get these things checked out and not just presume a diagnosis. Getting out of breath easily, frequent chest infections. Normally, if you've had 3 chest infections within a certain period, a doctor will send you to go and check out what's going on with your chest. It's a great thing to do because things do happen over time. A change in the cough that you've had for a long time. Some people do genuinely have a cough. We know a lady in our office, and she's in our team, who every time she has to talk to people and has that conversation, she'll be carrying on like this, and then and somebody did say to her, have you been to get that checked? Which was great, following up on, doing this training. Brilliant idea. The lady concerned has actually got quite bad asthma, and that's what it was referring to. However, I know another lady, my next door neighbour, love her to bits, but she's got a cough. She's a smoker, and she knows that every time she has that cigarette that she has a cough. I tried talking to her about not stopping smoking. It's like a broken record. We have these conversations about every 6 months. They don't seem to get any further. However, she knows that if her cough changes or she's coughing at another time when she's not smoking, that there is something going on, and she will go and get it checked. Could be coughing up phlegm or sputum with signs of blood in it. If you cough up blood and it's kind of like really bright red, then it could be coming from somewhere in your mouth or even the top of your throat. If it's coming from your lungs, then potentially it may almost look like tarry, coffee granule type thing. It's not the most beautiful looking thing to think about or even see. Who's that person that you know that every time they have a cough, they've got a tissue or a handkerchief and they're doing this? What's going on there? Have they had it checked out? Are they okay? Just little things to think about. Chest and shoulder pain. Never understood this one at first because I thought that, your lungs go straight across your chest. Well, they do, but they also go quite high up into your back as well. So they're kind of almost up into your shoulder. And I know a story of a lady who was diagnosed with lung cancer after initially being referred to a physio for a frozen shoulder that wasn't getting any better. Loss of appetite, tiredness, and or unintentional weight loss. Not always the first signs of cancer. However, if somebody isn't able to eat properly or is coughing a lot, then they tend to have other things that are happening. So if somebody's have any of those, then please do ask them to go and get checked. It could be anything. It might not be anything to do with cancer. However, it can just put their minds at rest as to what is happening. But certainly with lung cancer, former and current smokers are more at risk. So there's no actual screening programme for, sorry, some dodgy number ringing me. There's no actual formal screening programme for lung cancer. However, there are targeted lung health checks which are happening around the area. So in Hull, we have probably one of the largest numbers of smokers in the area and probably in the country as well. I think we were number one for quite a while, but Blackpool has recently taken back over that mantle. We also have probably one of the largest numbers of lung cancers as well. So because of this, we were, I won't say lucky enough, but the government gave us, I say the Royal Us and Royal Way in Hull, some money to be able to set up the lung health checks. So Hull residents who are either a smoker or an ex-smoker, having a Hull GP and being between the ages of 55 and under 75, are being invited to attend a lung health check. If you've been out and about in recent months, then you may have seen this unit. It has been parked in Lidl supermarket car park, just at the far side on Hesel Road. We've been going through the lists with the West and Central Hull GP practices and have been inviting people to attend. So this started last January 2020, I nearly said there, 2020, and unfortunately, obviously, because of COVID, we had to stop it because the nurses were recalled back into other areas. But people who attended were able to have conversations with the nurse, go through the health history, and also if risk factors were indicated, then they were offered a low-dose CT scan in the unit next door. It was an absolutely amazing place. And within that first 10 weeks, we saw around about 1,000 people. From those 1,000 people, we were able to identify some very early lung cancers, some other cancers that are seen from the CT scan, and also issues with the heart as well. Really interesting. And it's amazing that, you know, we were able to help those people. Obviously, because of COVID, things had to be paused. The unit was used as an extra CT scanner up at Castle Hill Hospital. You may have seen it if you've been there, but we have been able to get it back out into little supermarkets. I want to say it was the end of April, I think it was. So it has been down there, and we are looking to be moving on to North Hull shortly. I believe it's probably going to be around about January, February time. What I'd like to say, obviously, for those of you who live in Hull, who have friends and colleagues who may have received this letter, make sure that they go and get checked. It's really important. It can make a difference. People, we've got some stories on our website. If you go on our Humber Coast and Vale Cancer Alliance website, which Sarah can send you the details of, then you can look at the patient stories, and people been for these CT scans, didn't have any symptoms and were found to have lung cancer and have since made a full recovery. It's absolutely amazing. We are making a difference in Hull, but it's a small difference. So if people are invited, make sure that they do go along and get checked out. For North and North East Lincolnshire, we have just had funding approved for their scanners, and it's going to be starting in probably spring to summer of next year. And we are currently putting in bids for monies to do the same thing in the rest of East Riding of Yorkshire, North Yorkshire and York, because it's not just in Hull that people have lung cancer, and we want to make a difference in the whole of our area. So that was a little bit about lung cancer and the lung health checks, and please do look out for those. If you've got any questions, again, please note them down and we will answer those at the end when the recording is finished. Okay, the next cancer to talk about is breast cancer. It is the most common cancer in women. It's more common in older women, but it can affect younger women. And from the time that a child goes through puberty, then they will have breast tissue, which can potentially turn into breast cancer at any particular time. I know a story of a girl, and I say girl because she was 14 when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. It's really quite scary, and I could never imagine the thought of a girl at 14 being diagnosed with that. Short story is, mum took daughter to the doctor, who said she's just going through puberty. Well, because your breast tissue tends to be a little bit lumpy at that time. It didn't settle down. She ended up with a lump under her arm. She was then diagnosed with breast cancer. She went through treatments. Touch wood, she is okay now. But she will always have to be aware and still have to go for checks. 1 in 7 women in the UK will develop breast cancer in their lifetime. That was develop, not die from, develop. Really important word, that difference. And men can also be diagnosed with breast cancer. It's around about 400 cases a year. So men should be checking their breasts, pecs, chests, whatever they wish to call them, on a regular basis as well, because you can develop breast cancer at any time. Now, I don't know whether to try replaying the video. I can't remember whether it's got subtitles. My brain's gone mad. I do watch this on a regular basis, but I don't know whether it plays subtitles because I don't look at the screen. I just hear the words. Shall we give it a play? Because then you can always we'll put the link in afterwards as well.
There's no sound coming through and no subtitles, so may as well just not.
It's what now? It's just...
I'll even unmute myself. That'll be a good idea. I do apologise. I thought that one would have the subtitles, but obviously not. And then I went to go and put something in the chat and then it just froze it completely. I apologise. I'm not always a user on Zoom. I used to use Teams in my work. I apologise. But this is a Copperfield video. Copperfield are a breast cancer charity. They were set up by a lady called Chris Hellenger. She went to her doctor because she had thought there was something happening with her boobs that wasn't quite right, and was told she was too young in her early 20s to have breast cancer. She then went off travelling for a year, came back and thought, actually, do you know what? My boobs still aren't quite right. Went to the doctors and was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer at the age of 24. She's still around. That was around about 6 or 7 years ago, I believe, that she was diagnosed. But she has made it her kind of like life's work to make sure that people are aware of the early signs and symptoms of breast cancer. It's really important that obviously we know these things and we know what to do and how to check, because knowing your boobs can save your life. So Copperfield have a text reminder service, because we all have busy lives and we forget these things. You know, we have all good intentions that we're going to remember absolutely everything. It doesn't always happen. That's why I still send myself emails from my phone in the middle of the night when I ring up, when I think about all these random things that I haven't done for work or that I need to do, because we are busy. So the text reminder service is absolutely fantastic. They send you can go onto their website, and I'll make sure that I'll send the link to Sarah so that she can share that with you. And they send you a nice little reminder, usually in the form of a little ditty, and that is sent through at the beginning of the month. So this month came through and it said, making a list and checking it twice, also checking our chests because it feels nice. And because it might make a difference in our life as well. So some of the signs and symptoms of breast cancer to be aware of include discomfort or pain, nipple discharge, a rash or red areas that don't heal, a change in nipple position, pointing a different direction, any lumps, thickening or bumpy areas, any axillar lumps, which are lumps under the arm, which usually refer to something in your lymph nodes, and changes in appearance with a puckered or dimpled skin. The best way to do a breast check is using your middle 3 fingers and kind of like a little bit of a rolling motion. It's always best to start at your nipple, going all around your breast, right the way up to your collarbone, and most importantly, under your arms as well, because under your arms you have things like the lymph nodes, which I've just mentioned, which go into the lymphatic system, and that is often where ladies find a change in their breasts, is actually underneath there. Okay. Also, when you're doing it, recommend doing it twice. The reason being that, sorry, I apologise, my phone is going crazy this morning. Doing it twice, standing in front of the mirror, because you can see exactly what's happening. If you look down at your body, you can see what's going on the top of your breasts, but you can't see what's going on underneath. Laying down as well. If you're laying down, then think, you know, gravity moves these things, doesn't it? You know, you can feel different bits and pieces that you can't always feel when you're standing up, or even just like bending over. That's another good way to do it as well. But make sure you're doing that and doing it regularly so that you know what your breasts feel like on a normal basis, so that you can identify if anything changes. That's why we do it, to notice a difference. We also work with another charity called Know Your Lemons, and they have this brilliant poster. It says, you know, it's called What Breast Cancer Can Look and Feel Like. One of my friends was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 34, and it was well before I was working, even for the NHS, and even on social media at that point, I'd seen this and I started to share this information because it's really important that people know what it can look like. We talk about it, but, you know, sometimes seeing that visual makes a difference. So I ran this session, delivered this session back in March 2019, when I could be in a room with people and actually have proper conversations. And one of the things I used to do was actually hand this poster out as on a laminated copy for people to have a look at, because seeing it on a screen and seeing it in front of your face is something just a little bit different. There's a lady at the back of the room and she looked at this page and thought, oh, that looks like me. One of those on there, that's what my breast looks like. That's what my nipple looks like. We found this out a little while later, but just nearly a year ago. And she went to see the doctor. This was on a Friday afternoon that we were delivering the session. She went to see the doctor on the Monday morning. Within 2 weeks, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. Again, her story is available on our patient stories on our website. The lady is called Sharon. She works for local Humberside police. But I made a difference by just sharing that poster. And you could make a difference, you know, in your work life. Can that be sent out? Can that be put on the back of the toilet doors, including the boys? Because it's not just women that get breast cancer. It could be that by following Cancer Alliance on social media, that when we share information about the different signs and symptoms, not only of breast cancer, but other things, you share those posts on. That could make a difference just by somebody seeing that information. But Know Your Lemons, it's a brilliant charity. And that could be put up anywhere. It doesn't have to be somewhere to avoided by children, because all it is an egg box full of lemons. So breast cancer screening is available to ladies between the ages of 50 and 70 every 3 years. It's a mammogram, or sometimes referred to as a mammogram, and it's a type of X-ray which is carried out on your breast. It's looking for those changes that are often too small to be felt. There will also, if you've already previously had a mammogram, is to check against the last one, so that they can see if there's anything that is there that has changed since the previous one was taken. So they will go, right, there's your left breast. Yep, that looks fine. Here's your left breast from 3 years ago. Oh, actually, that bit's changed. That's a little bit different. What's going on there? And that's why you may get a call back to go and get it checked, to see those small changes, because often they're very small and you would not be able to feel them either. And the breast screening does help to diagnose breast cancer at an early stage. We have been also, or the NHS has also been doing, looking at programmes to extend the age extension. So they've also been inviting ladies between the ages of 47 and 73. Because of COVID, they've literally backed down to the 50 to 70 because they want to make sure that nobody within that age range has missed an appointment when they should have been invited. Breast cancer, again, I updated these the other day. So the target is 80%. I was a little bit saddened to see that the national average had actually gone down, both for the averages have gone down both for the national average and our local area as well. But that is, it goes 2020 to 21, so it is partly because of the of COVID and the fact that they did stop the screening. So I am hoping that the next time they release those figures, that there will be an increase again in those. So that's a little bit about breast cancer and breast cancer screening. And again, if you've got any questions, please make a note of them, and we will go through those at the end for you. So cervical or cervical cancer often has no symptoms, and you should always visit the doctor to get checked if you have any of the following: bleeding between your periods or bleeding during or after sex, bleeding after you've been through the menopause, any unpleasant vaginal discharge, and I think that should say that doesn't go with normal treatments, discomfort or pain during sex, or an unexplained pain in your pelvic bones or between your pelvic bones. Where is your cervix? A lot of people don't know this one. I'd normally ask a question, but I will share with you the answer. So number 4 is your cervix, and one to be aware of is your ovaries, because we're going to be talking about ovarian cancer in a couple of minutes as well. Okay. Going on hand in hand with cervical cancer is human papilloma virus, or the HPV. So HPV was the clever boffins in the research facilities were trying to find what caused cervical cancer, and from that they actually found HPV. So HPV is a virus that has many different strains which can affect the skin and cell linings of the body, which is said to be why it is passed sexually. So whether it's by skin-to-skin contact, it can also be passed on your fingers as well. So HPV can lead to the cell changes, which is the most common cause of cervical cancer. There are around about 143 different strains of HPV, with around about 13 of those being responsible or being attributed to cervical cancer. And from those, there are around about 2 that are the ones that give the most, or that are most at risk of cervical cancer. The others are related to other conditions, including skin warts and verrucas, mouth, throat, anal and other genital cancers. A healthy immune system can often rid the body of the virus without any signs and symptoms ever being detected. However, they do believe that with the vaccination, then it can help to reduce the numbers of people having HPV-related cancers, not just cervical cancer. So they started the HPV vaccination in 2008 for girls in senior school, usually about year 8 and between about 11 and 13. And it was originally done as 3 vaccinations. It's now just been condensed to 2. But from September 2019, boys were also included within those figures as well. So they believed that around about 40,000 lives, boys' lives, could be saved in the next 30 to 40 years by boys also having the HPV vaccination. It's massive numbers, and it is making a difference. There was a report that came out about 2 or 3 weeks ago that mentions the cervical cancer rate has now dropped in, I say ladies, girls, whichever we wish to refer to them as, who have already had that vaccination, by 87%. It's an absolutely huge number. I can see Sarah smiling because I know Sarah's story, and Sarah's story is also available on our patient stories on our website. I hope you don't mind me telling that one, Sarah, because obviously it is there. But you know, it is really important that children are given that option. If because it is parental consent, anybody under the age of 25 who didn't have it can still go to the doctors and potentially have that vaccination as well. Okay. So this one is another Cancer Research UK video about cervical screening. So hopefully it should have subtitles on this one. But I apologise in advance when you listen to it again, because it will have the what I would refer to as the supermarket, as the department store music. It's like that doody little background music. So I'll let you watch this one, and the link again will be with Sarah to send out later for you. Okay, I know obviously we had some subtitles on there, so that wasn't too bad. But you did miss out on the doody music in the background. So cervical screening, everybody who has a cervix is eligible for screening. So we say everybody because not all, it's not just females who have a cervix, because people are going through transition or transgender process, that they may already have changed their gender status at the doctors, for example, from female to male, and the NHS systems are only set up to invite females for the cervical screening. So it's really important that if somebody is going through the transgender process and they have changed that gender status, that they haven't yet had their cervix removed or are not going to, that they still go to have a cervical screening. We know a story of somebody in our area who has that issue, and they have an agreement that when their sister receives their screening letter, that they will let them know, and they will contact their doctor at that point to make an appointment to have their cervical screening. So the point of cervical screening, or sometimes referred to as a smear test, I think the word smear sounds awful, and it doesn't actually fill anybody with interest and want to go and get it done. But I think it's better than the scrape that they actually refer to it as in America. But it's a way of preventing cancer, and cervical screening is, cervical cancer is the only preventable cancer that we have or that we're aware of in the UK currently. So the screening is aiming to pick up the presence of HPV or cell changes in the cervix before they develop into cancer. Cervical screening or cervical cancer is very rare under the age of 25. It's said to be, the reasons for that is because it's said to be that your cervix doesn't mature until the age of 25. So potentially, I remember as a teenager that my friends and other cohorts, other people that I worked with who were around the same age, we all went for our cervical screening. But I do remember people having their been recalled and having treatments. Was that because that they had their cervixes hadn't actually matured, or did they genuinely need to have treatments? We're not sure. But cervical screening is available every 3 years for 25 to 49-year-olds and every 5 years between 50 and 64. And, the numbers are going up for the people who are going to get it done, but we're still not great. We're still not quite up to those targets of 80%. So again, if people are invited then and they tell you that they've had an invitation, please encourage them to go and get things checked out. It is really, really important. Talk about Jade Goody. So Jade Goody was a celebrity in Big Brother. Can't remember which number it was, whether it was 2 or 3 now. And she was diagnosed with cervical cancer. She ultimately, for the fact that she didn't take up those recalls and go back to the hospital when she'd received letters, paid for that with her life, unfortunately. She had children who were very young. I think they were still under the age of 5 when she died. And sadly enough, she died on Mother's Day. And it's nearly 14 years ago now that she died. It's really quite scary. When she was diagnosed with cervical cancer, there was what is referred to as the Jade Goody effect, because a lot more ladies suddenly went, oh, let's go and get checked. I haven't done that. It's waned off in recent years. Sometimes things happening to celebrities is good because it can improve an uptake, for example, on things like this, but it doesn't always carry on. We need to make a difference. We need people to go ahead and get those screenings done as and when they are called for, because it can make a difference to your life. However, screening is still your choice. There are benefits and risks for all screenings, but the benefits are that it can save your life from cancer, it can detect it early, and it can often prevent it from happening and developing. Sometimes the risks are that there's some people may have side effects. There could be missed cancers or false alarms, or even an overdiagnosis. So those things where low risk cancers are picked up that wouldn't have gone on to cause any harm at all. But screening is your choice. Okay. The last cancer that we're going to talk through this morning, I don't know what time of day it is, honestly, is ovarian. Ovarian cancer usually occurs in ladies over the age of 50, and it is number 6 in the, I won't say the hit parade, but in the list of most common cancers in the UK, with approximately just under 7,500 ladies who are diagnosed with it every year. Many people with early stage cancer, ovarian cancer, don't realise they have any symptoms. And according to Target Ovarian Cancer, who are one of the leading ovarian cancer charities, 9 out of 10 women will survive if it is caught early. So it is, again, about knowing those early signs and symptoms and making a difference to you and going to get it checked out when you've noticed that there has been something that is not normal. So some of the symptoms may include bloating and feeling full in the abdomen, pain in the pelvic area or lower abdomen, feeling full quickly or loss of appetite, or needing to go to the toilet more often or more frequently. After cancer has spread, it may also include things like irregular periods or vaginal bleeding if you've already been through the menopause, back pain, constipation, pain during sex, or a swollen abdomen. Now, half of those, it always makes me kind of wonder, because half of those just kind of like seem like normal period pains. So again, it's about knowing your cycle, knowing what is normal for you. And, if you've already been through the menopause and you don't have any kind of periods and you suddenly have blood, actually, that's not normal. Get it checked. If it is, just that pain or that isn't quite normal, it's just suddenly started happening, what is going on? Be aware and get it checked. It is really important that we make a difference to our lives and get these signs and symptoms checked with the doctors. So hopefully now you're feeling a little bit more confident about some of the early signs and symptoms of cancer, and can hopefully make a difference. What we can do is we can keep in touch with you, as long as you obviously give your consent that you will share, that you're happy to share your contact details with the Menopaus'ull team so that they can share that information with us. Things to consider having a conversation with somebody about cancer. knowing your audience, it's all right, thinking, right, I'm going to have a conversation with them today. Somebody's got that metaphorical wall up in front of them. You're not getting through it, however much you try. So always check that somebody wants to have a conversation. Might be that you say, actually, let me just leave you this leaflet, or, have you tried having a look on, whichever website it may be to find some information? I'm a little bit concerned. Always be honest with people. We might not know all of the answers, but I'll tell you what, why don't you make a doctor's appointment and I'll come with you? Asking open questions can make a difference. It can give you further information. So the who, what, when, why questions, where you can get that further information, can help make a difference. Active listening. It's not just about listening with your ears. It's listening with your eyes, which sounds a bit crazy, because, you might see somebody in the supermarket. You all right? Yeah, I'm fine. And they're like that. Oh, really? You're telling me you're fine? Are you sure you're okay? Do you want me to give you a call later? Because sometimes people don't want to talk in wherever you've seen them. Make sure you always close the conversation encouragingly, whether it is, let me know what happens, let me know when your appointment is, I'll come with you, I'll give you a call tonight, I'll give you a call next week, or wherever it is. Make a difference, make them feel like somebody cares about them. That can make a real difference to people as well. Confidentiality, we'd love to know that following this, watching our training session, that you have made a difference to people, and we would love to know what those differences are. However small, they can make a difference. We can add them to our little list of anecdotes and stories that we share. But we don't need to know everything about them. We don't need to know that I spoke to Mr. Tom Jones of 99 Main Street, and I talked to him and he said, she said, he said. Just need to know that, I spoke to a neighbour, he said that he'd had some problems, this is what happened. Fantastic. It's a small world out there. I don't need to know who it's all about, but I'd love to know who you've helped and how you've made a difference. What happens next? Again, with the consent from through the Menopaus'ull site, then we can keep in touch with you and with our quarterly newsletter. We will be sending the details through to Sarah and the team, so she can send the evaluation forms out for you as well. And we'd love to know what you think about the session. But we are here at any time to ask any questions. Our email address is on there, and I'll make sure that Sarah includes that as well. And hopefully yourselves following the session can feel a little bit more confident about cancer. We'd love you to fill in the evaluation form and make a pledge as well. We do a part 2 session on our Cancer Champions information, which details are available by contacting us as well. These are some of the stories that we have had in following our previous training sessions. We've had lots and lots of different things happen. It can range from encouraging daughters to have smear tests, getting a friend to have a pain checked out, somebody coughing up blood. He passed it off as a burst blood vessel. He went to the doctor, referred him for a scan, and that's revealed a shadow, and he's awaiting further tests. I always wonder, because we didn't know the answer any more than that, how long had that been going on? Was it genuinely the first time that that person had coughed up blood, that, somebody happened to be there? Or had it been going on for a couple of weeks? A few months even? We don't know, but we do want to try and make a difference to people as well. Pledges, these can range from, saying that I'm going to make sure that I sign up for the Copperfield boob checking reminder service and make sure that I tell my friends and family. Could be that you're saying that you're going to follow us on social media and share your messages along with your community and make a difference. We can, make that difference, and even if it's just small steps, these can help people as well. We've got, as I've mentioned, we've got our website where the patient stories are available, and also we are on Twitter and Facebook, and Sarah will send out those links for you afterwards as well. A couple of little extra bits. So social media influence. So this can make a difference. So we've had on here, it was Michelle Keegan and Jamie Vardy's wife, I can't think of her name. Her name's disappeared out of my mind. They both talked about going for their cervical screening. And again, just by them talking about it, social media is a big influence, certainly on younger age range of people. So that can make a difference in that happening. They also have had social media campaigns. So this one was about Smear for Smear. So Rebecca Vardy, that was her name. So there is Rebecca Vardy, Tara, oh goodness me, I've forgotten the names now. Cara Delevingne and Tamara Eccleston. So that's it. I remembered them eventually because I kind of half see through my glasses. They smeared the lipstick and said to say that they'd been for their smear. So it's a smear for smear. And again, that was quite a successful campaign that ran on social media. Gets people talking about it. Have you seen? That's all it takes is a conversation like that. So thank you very much for your time this morning. Just a quick reminder that if in doubt, in health, there's no such thing as a silly question. However, we do suggest avoiding that Dr. Google bloke. Doesn't always help us, and it just freaks everybody out completely. Remember your own limitations, seek advice and support as necessary, and most importantly, please do look after yourselves.